Welcome back, everybody, to our bonus edition. I'm David Rice, founder of Ignite DDS and co-founder of this great little organization called Ignite DA with Kevin Henry. How are you today?
Hey, buddy, I'm great here. Glad to be the co-founder with you, and glad we get to tackle a topic that you and I both heard way too many times, to be honest.
It's not my job to tackle this topic.
Oh, just those words just send shivers up my spine. They absolutely do. Because I mean, I've been in practices, and I've seen that said. It's not my job. And then I've seen the reaction that comes from that. And man, you talk about just a tidal wave that happens. That's it.
Yeah. Okay. So that what a great place to start. You've witnessed this happening from your perspective. Maybe let's start with this because I know we're talking about teams, dentists, new and old, seasoned and new on both sides. How about from an outsider's perspective? How did that resonate with you?
I saw the reaction from the person who it was said to, and you could tell that there was just this whole almost a biting of the lip to not say something back, but to know that I was there. And just as a point of reference, I was there as a just watching this practice as part of whenever I worked at Dental Economics to kind of see behind the scenes and really learn the dental industry. And this is one of the first times that I had that feeling as a watcher, because I saw this other lady bite her lip and just turn and walk away. I never saw what was the resolution of that, but I can tell you that it made me very uncomfortable. But the sad part was the lady who said it to her wasn't uncomfortable with it at all. That was her stance, and she just kind of was like walked off. So yeah, you could tell that it kind of raised the tension level. And as an outsider, if I had been a patient and that happened, if I had been a consumer of that business and that would have happened, I can tell you that would have raised my anxiety tenfold easily.
Yeah, me too. If I put my patient hat on, I would think, well, if that's not your job and that's not your job, um, is anybody here want to take care of me and make
Good
me
point.
feel welcome? Yeah, and as a dentist leader who's been doing this for 27 years now, I think I have a couple perspectives. I know where I am now, and I remember where I was as a young dentist, and the whole "it's not my job." I'm very thankful to say has not been an issue, a concern in our practice, really for one reason. We as the dentist owners practice what we preach. So everybody's job is a job that we as partner owners are willing to do, and we, with great intention, we do to show our team and lead the way.
What one thing that I've no, I say two things I've always loved about your practice is that right there, that you've always been willing to, if the trash needed to be taken out or if something needed to be done, you did it. You didn't expect somebody else to do it. And the second thing is that you passed down as the leader to the entire team that, hey, I'm willing to do it. And guess what? So are you, or you will be. That's just part of working here, is that we all have that. And I'm almost going to call it a servant mentality, because that's how I see it in your practice.
Yeah, and for us, it's both. It's always very intentional, but I'm going to say there's maybe two pieces to that intention. So when we bring a new team member into our practice, whether that's an associate dentist, hygienist assistant, business team, doesn't matter, a new team, we talk about from a very positive place who we are as a team, what our culture is, and the willingness for each one of us to take on everybody's job, not because there's a job definition so much as it is if we extend the olive branch and look to help other people at every turn of the day, then that's how everybody kind of turns and helps. So that's very much a part of our initial conversation and our onboarding process, part of our interview process, let's face it. And then on a daily, we look for opportunities to bend down and pick something up off the floor. We look for opportunities that if we're running tight on time, that, hey, you know what, I can help break a room down just as well as Holly can or Stephanie can. And what
Sure.
happens like clockwork is when we do something that a team member perceives is their job, they say, don't worry about it, I have it. And the best response on our part is, hey, happy to help. Sometimes it means we
That's
both
awesome.
jump in. Sometimes, we get dragged in a different direction. But I think that mindset, that culture, like it permeates our building because we have 15 people looking to help one another. So the whole, that's not my job, it just doesn't arise.
And I love that you've, as my grandpa used to say, nipped it in the bud.
Mm.
I mean, from the interview process all the way through, people knew that that wasn't acceptable to do that. And yet, you and I both know that there's practices out there where it happens. And I will tell you, one of the questions I get asked so often from assistants is, how do I deal with that? How do I make sure that, I don't mind doing it, but when it's expected that I do it, it becomes a completely different mindset. So is that something that, as the dentist, if I'm an assistant, this has been said, do you want me to try to work it out with that other person before coming to you? Do you want to serve as the mediary? I'm curious how you see that playing out in the team dynamic place.
Man, I love that question. So I'm going to divide practices teams into maybe two camps, clearly more than that, but two camps. Camp one, you already have high trust and pretty darn good relationships. And this is one of the many moments we see in our practice where we have to kind of step in and be a leader. And camp two is we don't have trusting relationships. If you're in camp one, then absolutely teammate to teammate, whomever you are on the team, taking it to the source, positively having the conversation, right? Because what you say and what is heard, we want to make sure those are the two of the same things, is what I would prefer. And then if that doesn't get us where we need to get to as a team, then yes, get me involved.
Okay.
But no, as the dentist leader with high trust, I don't want to waste my day because 15 people on a team, 3 people have a bad day. That means 6 events and people involved. And now all of a sudden, where's the time go? But I will caution you, if you have low trust and low relationships, then dentists, buckle up. You have to be willing to put the work in because this is your new front side. This is your new nipping it in the bud moving forward.
And if we really look at the dental practice as a business, and obviously the dentist is the highest producer, he or she is the one who should bring in the most revenue, to take time away from you doing that to kind of put all the cats back in a bag, and to make sure that your team is actually doing what they're supposed to do and they're not infighting. It's not the best use of your time. It's not the best for the business. And it's certainly, again, not the best for your patients because they're going to know that you've just been in an uncomfortable situation before you come in to do my hygiene check or whatever it might be. And so, one of the things that I want to encourage team members to do is what Dave said a moment ago, is that resolve it between yourselves before bringing in that third party. But how you resolve it is just as important as resolving it itself, because you hit on a great point. It's about discussing it positively, not saying you're wrong and I'm right and here's why, but it's here's what I heard, here's what I understand. I don't see it that way. Can we talk about it? Type of moment I think that needs to happen.
I do too. I'm a really, really big fan of not addressing things in the moment and sort of letting that initial emotion pass. So if you're on the receiving end of it's not my job, what I would recommend to you is, okay, look for an opportunity towards the end of the day when you and whomever is on the other side of this get to go home afterwards. And that's one. Two, sit with how this made you feel.
Mhm.
And then when you go to that person, go with the mindset of we're here to positively resolve this and get past it and move forward. One. Two, address the behavior, not the person. So,
Love that.
right. So if Kevin, if you and I were having, if I said this isn't my job, then I would feel better if you came to me and just said, hey, David, when you said this, it made me feel this. So
Mhm.
it's behavior, and then it's how it impacted you personally. None of that rests on me as a human being. It rests on, I did something, it made you feel a certain way. How do we get past this? I think that's our best recipe to one-on-one resolve this. And guys, if you've never done this before, you're going to have a big stomach ache.
Yeah.
In fact, both of
Good
you
point.
will have big stomach aches, but that's part of it. And once you've done this once or twice, it gets easy, and two, you'll very infrequently have to do it again, because people, it's about accountability. So if we hold each other accountable, then we tend to just start becoming accountable every day.
And I think it's like everything else in life. We have to learn how to do this properly. We
Mhm.
have to learn the right semantics, and the first time that you do it, you may not feel comfortable. You may have that stomach ache, but it is something that if you prep for it, if you do leadership and classes, courses, things to get better with person to person communication before something like that happens, and then you're prepared, it makes a huge difference, I think. And you've got to make sure more than anything else that you don't let this one incident then just blow up into something a lot bigger, because that's whenever it can really take over an office dynamic. I've seen splits in the practice happen. I've seen patients get very, very uncomfortable because Sally and Jenny weren't getting along or whatever it might be. And it can cause so many other problems if you don't address the issue the right way the first time.
Oh, that's so important. I love that. I would, kind of taking that a step further, I would say, when you address it with somebody and it goes well, now it's back to Kevin's point. It's on your shoulders to erase it.
Yeah,
Now,
good
that
point.
doesn't mean you forget if Kevin ever came back, or I came back to Kevin and said, that's not my job, or I kept adding to it. That's different. But you have to let people off the hook when they make a mistake. And if that person isn't open to recognizing their role and how to make it better, then yes, that's when I do want you to come to me as a team member, because now it's my job as the dentist leader to make this situation better, either by helping that person get over the hump or firing them if they
Yeah.
don't want to get over that hump. And then your anger should be with me as the leader, not with that person. If I allow a bad teammate to stay, your problem is with me, not with them.
And the problem, whenever bad teammates stay, the good ones leave.
Oh
You know,
gosh,
and
yeah.
and and unfortunately, then that bad one becomes a magnet for others to come in. And I've seen it happen in practice. I've seen ones that have great culture have that proverbial bad apple, and it just turns into something horrid. So I encourage you. It's the start of a new year. It's the start of a lot of things that can make your practice better. And we know that practices are going to be changing a lot this year with how they have responded to COVID. When a vaccine is out, how do things change back? What is this going to look like? It's going to be a time of change in a lot of practices, and there are people who are uncomfortable with change. And I think this is something that we've got to wrap our head around, that not only do we have to change our scheduling, not only do we have to change our infection control, not only do we have to change a lot of things that we've already done, but we have to change that culture if we see that speed bump that's there that we can flatten out.
Oh, absolutely. Can I pitch you a 180? Because I'm curious to see how you handle this.
Pitch it, man. Let's do it.
So far we've addressed this with, let's say, um, great person on the team, very well intentioned, ask for somebody's help, and that person on the team has bad behavior and
Yeah.
says, that's not my job. So what if we flipped it, and it's team member or dentist team member who their behavior is bad, so they perpetually ask a team member who always exhibits great behavior for help with things they should be doing. Now what?
Oof, boy, that's a good one, because you and I both know that happens a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It really does. And the people who are willing to help get burned out so quickly. And so I think that I don't know. I'm a fan of, and let's talk about this. I'm a fan of defined roles in the practice, that you know what your role consists of, and that you're not just a hygienist or an assistant or front desk, and that's all that you do. But I think if there's additional things that you should be helping with or you need to be helping with, those shouldn't be assumed. Those should be verbalized. Those should be written down. Those should be part of things that everybody's on the same page. And then somebody's not taking advantage of somebody else and what they consider free time or, whatever it might be. What about you, though?
I like that. I couldn't agree more. Mapping, everybody has to know how we win. And in order to win as a player on the team, we're all going to have lanes that we perform, 90% of our day in. And then 10% of the time is we're going to be helping each other and working that whole angle. We have to really know our lanes. So when I hear a team member constantly ask another team member for help, I think of one of two things. The first one is I let someone off the hook because I think maybe they're just not confident in performing that task. So if I'm the team member who's exhibiting the good behavior, maybe my first question back to that team member who's perpetually asking me is, listen, it seems like you might not feel really good about doing, name the task that you're getting asked to help with. Let's walk through it together so I can help you, right? Teach someone to fish, don't hand them a fish. And then maybe we can schedule some time on a later date so you feel great about it. How's that work? And that takes now I know if it's great team member, lack of confidence, because maybe lack of competence, then we're teaching.
Yep.
If on the other hand, the competence is there and it's not about a confidence problem, it's about I just don't feel like doing this. And I know you'll bail me out if I just don't. Then same thing, that's the time that you've taken it to the source. It didn't really work out. Bring it to the dentist, bring it to the owner, be professional, present the scenario, and then dentist again, buckle up. It's time to sit down with that team member, just like you would the other. And you just have an open, honest conversation about what expectations are in your practice for your culture and how you'd like it done.
I remember there was one practice where I think there were 3 assistants there. And there was one assistant who had zero confidence in her impression taking skills. And so it was amazing. She would always ask one of the other 2 to do the impression part of it. And she was embarrassed to tell the dentist that she didn't feel comfortable doing that, but she was confident enough to tell her teammates that. But yet her teammates didn't ever teach her how to do it. They just did it because it was easier to do it that way. And eventually it caused friction between them because then it was always one of those, now I got to do this too, and bail that other assistant out, whenever it would have been so easy to say, let me show you, let me teach you what parts of this make you uncomfortable, and let's work together to get past that.
I have never coached a practice and had that happen.
Really? Ever? That's amazing.
Yes. So that's a great example. And team member, if you're the person who's constantly just taking it over rather than teaching, then guess who's a part of the problem? You. Not for bad reasons, right? For all the right reasons, you're trying to take this over because maybe it is about speed. Maybe it is about doing the job right the first time. But we have to find time to train people. We have to give people the opportunity to show that they can do it. If they prove that they can't, then we manage that situation. But most people want to be great at their job. So if you said 80% of the time we can overcome these things together, and 20% of the time we have to move on, that's probably the ratio. We just have to, to your point earlier, we have to nip that in the bud so we don't spend 3 years with a problem and it just boils inside of us. It's 3 months, right? I think we know in 90 days if someone has the attitude and aptitude to keep learning or they don't.
And I'm going to take it back to a point you made earlier. A lot of this is going to involve an uncomfortable conversation. A lot of this is going to involve something that's going to pull some of you out of your comfort zone. But yet, if you let it fester and boil and just sit there and gnaw at you, it's far worse to have that happen than to rip the Band-Aid off and say, we got to have a talk. We've got to resolve this.
Yeah. Can we give everybody, maybe a team meeting concept to overcome this?
Let's do it.
Awesome. So here's what Kevin and I would recommend to you guys. Whether you have that trust and relationship or you don't, you can build it. So let's pretend you are watching this. We're 2021. We're ready for a great new year. And what if you held a team meeting? Maybe it's an hour. If it's longer, awesome. But if you have an hour, and I would recommend one person on the team take the lead. You guys decide for yourselves who that is and pitch that. Anybody on this team ever heard from anyone else? It's not my job. And then step one is go around the room and ask one question. How'd that make you feel?
Hmm.
And then have everybody answer that question. Second question is, what do you think drove that it's not my job? What are the possibilities? Because some of them will be what we just talked about. Well, the person didn't feel confident. They didn't have the competence yet. Somebody will throw out like bad attitude, right? You want to hear all the possibilities. And then as a team, go through each one. Start with the positive ones. Dave's brand new. He didn't know what he was doing. So he kept asking for help. And his way of asking for help was pushing back. It's not my job. Instead of being vulnerable and saying, I don't know how to do that because I'm afraid I'm going to get fired. Go through all the positive ones first. Get to the hard ones. Talk about how you want to overcome the hard ones. And you'll walk out of that meeting with a process.
Like that.
How your team is going to handle it. Who's going to handle it on your team? That's how you guys can kick this off and really make some head ground.
It's going to take trust. It's going to take everybody wanting to get better and everybody maybe turning the mirror back at themselves and going, yeah, I need to do better at that myself. But man, if you could do that, what a powerful meeting that would be. Seriously.
Yeah, I love that concept. And trust me, for all of you who are going like, oh, that's a great idea. It's not mine. I learn from other people in the industry, and this very thankfully 25 years ago, I learned some really great lessons. We brought them to our practice. We kind of tweaked them and adjusted them to see what worked better for us. This was a great team meeting we had, God, 20 years ago, and we've never had to have it since. Part of that's because our team has stayed the same. Awesome. But as importantly, and whether your team has stayed the same or has turnover, it's because it's the culture, and we are all guardians of our culture. And we're all open to teaching and training and helping people succeed.
I just love that an hour or two or whatever it might be out of your time pays that long of a dividend. And when you really look at investing that short term to get everybody on the same page, what it can mean down the road, and just shows why it's such a powerful investment of your time.
Absolutely. I think too many of us in dentistry, it's too easy to say if we're not producing dentistry, we're not being productive. If you're thinking that right now, then just ask yourself how much time, energy, heart muscle, money it costs you and your practice to not sit down for an hour and have to perpetually deal with this and every other obstacle that you face. We don't have to face every challenge all at one time, but when we face one that happens pretty frequently like this, then I think it saves us tons of time, tons of money, and tons of I don't really want to go to work every day mindset.
Great point.
Right?
Great point. And man, I'll tell you, you can tell the employees who have that mindset versus those who really want to be there or excited about being there. And that makes all the difference as well.
Yeah. And I can tell the dentist owners, right? They hate it.
Sure.
I think of burnout, right? This is burnout. I'm going to do everything possible to figure out how I don't have to do this for the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years, whether you're the dentist, assistant hygienist, a business person, but it impacts all of us. So gang, take some time to get proactive. If you've done it in the past, you already know this just may be a new step for you. If you've never done it, take your first step. And, and when you fall and it hurts, pick yourself back up, because we all fall. We all fall.
And we learn from those failures as much as we do our successes, but it's important to set yourself up for success and not just go, well, one of these days, or I'll get to it. It's important to tackle the things that are important. Amen, brother. Yeah. Good stuff, man. Good stuff as always.
Amen. Men. So gang, that's our bonus session. We've got more information, more content coming your way. So please stay tuned. Kev, as always, it's awesome hanging out with you.
You too, my friend. See you soon.
Take care, guys.